Hello everyone. Last year, Luke Smith, the game director of Destiny, dropped a series of articles called The Director's Cut that went over key issues with Destiny and Bungie's goals for the following year. A new one has dropped significantly earlier than expected, and it covers a lot of things that I think are very important for 2020, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Grab some food or something because this is a long one. Also, the footage is probably not going to be too exciting, so you can just listen. The Director's Cut for 2020 discusses aspiration in Destiny, FOMO, or fear of missing out with seasonal content, and weapon retirement as its main 3 points. I'm going to summarize what Luke talks about and then have my thoughts in the second half. I highly suggest you read through the post, it's linked in the description, as opposed to only listening to my summary. Let's talk about the first point, aspiration. Aspiration is getting things done. It is a goal that you have in mind that you want to complete. Luke says it very simply, quote, "We need to refuel aspiration in Destiny 2. And it's one of their bigger goals for 2020 and 2021. Refuel aspirational content in the game, which leads to our main segments. Bungie has been taking deep looks into seasons and seasonal content. What they think is working well is the following. Number 1, seasonal narratives connecting from one season to another. I would say that's fairly true. Number 2, the saving of Saint 14 was cool for more veteran players, which I would agree. And 3, the simplicity of leveling up Destiny's version of the Battle Pass, aka seasonal ranks. Bungie does not claim to have XP values correct, just the simple nature of leveling the pass up. I would also agree. However, something they feel like they are not delivering on is an evolving world. Instead, they're delivering private play spaces and activities that go away. The world isn't being changed, it's being added to and then removed 3 months later. Forsaken's seasonal content was great because if you left and came back, there was a whole bunch of stuff for you to come back to do. And I'd argue Forsaken's seasonal content did more to actually evolve the world because those things were added and stayed, maybe to the detriment of certain parts of developing the game. Bungie wants to try to reduce fear of missing out, or FOMO, while also trying to create moments that make memories, while also figuring out how to focus their efforts while building seasons. These goals actively work against one another. For the future, Bungie is talking about moving away from creating one-and-done seasonal activities, and instead, quote, using that time and effort to build themes that aren't just represented by a marquee event that will fade away, but rather inject these seasonal themes into more of the game, end quote. Like Destiny 2's core activities. Core activities are activities that stay around, your strikes, your Nightfall, Crucible, Gambit, etc., that have some inherent replayability factor in mind. Seasonal activities compete with core activities in that a seasonal activity becomes a core activity until it's removed. All of a season's offerings tend to be put into that seasonal activity, meaning all of the new stuff is in the seasonal activity only, meaning you are engaging less with the main core activities of the game. Core activities give tons of XP, while seasonal activities give the new stuff, so you're constantly being pulled in multiple directions by the game. So what does investing into core activities look like? I'm just going to quote Luke on this next section. Quote, "It could mean more rewards being distributed in these activities, or it could mean taking a theme for a season and using it to galvanize strikes. If we're going to ask players to engage with these activities, we have an opportunity to leverage rewards throughout the season." End quote. Armor sets or sundial weapons being thrown into core reward pools, or weapon rolls only being found in certain places were some examples given. They also think that they can invest more dev time on quest lines. Seasonal content only lasts 3 months. What if it lasted until the next major expansion in the fall? That way, if you wanted to come back to Destiny, you would get to experience some of the things that happened instead of coming back to only the current events. This is not as simple as just go back to how you did Forsaken seasonal content, though, as we'll discuss. Open world spaces need some investing into as well. Quote, "We've built a world where players can encounter others, but we haven't made a world with fights challenging enough where you feel like other players matter." End quote. I could not agree more. Next up, Luke talks about weapon retirement. Right now, you can use any gun you want in Destiny. You can level it to max level, get 1,000,000 kills on it, whatever you want to do. Which, in theory, sounds good, and in practice, a fair amount of people enjoy. However, there are some problems with that. It passively generates power creep, which has been a problem historic to Destiny, which means more dev time is spent trying to balance weaponry. It also kills motivation for one of the main reasons people play the game: loot. It means that Bungie is just making stuff for the sole purpose of collecting, having no value beyond that. It actually makes negative value because instead of making guns no one is going to use, they can make other stuff. The combat team works hard to make sure guns feel very unique in some sort of way compared to other guns that they make. I'm going to cut out some of the fluff here and just get to the point. Luke believes we're reaching a turning point for weapons and infusion in Destiny 2. While Bungie wants you to be able to keep your current arsenal, as opposed to blowing up the tower again, and be able to use those items in PvP or lower level areas, changes are coming to more aspirational content or areas where power matters. We take a look back to the Vault of Glass days of Destiny 1, where rewards were rarer and more coveted. Unique perk rolls, things like Fatebringer, where you celebrate when you saw one drop for you or your team. But you also knew that they wouldn't stay around forever, so Bungie could create memorable weapon experiences without breaking the game forever. With Destiny 2, that space doesn't really exist. Weapons rain from the sky in any flavor that you want. Pinnacles and rituals are essentially exotic weapons without the sparkles of a unique function. Raid weapons are almost no different from any other gun that you can find. The answer to this problem isn't, quote, "just make them better," end quote. And when weapons stay around forever, all of the outliers are thrown out. If they can't compete with the best, then they're garbage. I'm going to jump ahead in the post here. When going from an evergreen weapons situation where weapons are relevant forever to one where weapons only last 9 to 15 months, Bungie's numbers, not mine, Bungie now has the space at the high end to create powerful legendaries that are straight up better than others. But because they will eventually rotate out, the design space can expand and contrast over time. Bungie won't need to account for the viability of all weapons forever, which opens up design space. Legendary weapons or perks could be shelved for a period of time and then be brought back later. But to sum it all up, legendary weapons will have fixed values for how high they can be infused, projecting their lifespan, which will be somewhere in between 9 to 15 months. This is not being applied to exotics, not now anyway, potentially ever, who knows. Next, a more ambiguous section, Cosmic Gardeners. Bungie is trying to continue to build some sort of narrative experience for the game compared to years past where we were just treading water. However, Destiny 2 cannot grow infinitely. This brings us back to the point about seasonal content sticking around for longer than a season. The game can't grow indefinitely for technical reasons and for some creative. Technical probably being the more important one since you kinda need the game to actually work for people to play it. Maintenance is a problem on older content. Whenever new things are put in, it needs to be compatible with the old. Anytime something is added permanently, that's one more potential problem that could arise when another new thing is added. This means more time maintaining the game itself and less time building new things for it, or less time addressing more current issues. Look at Izanagi's Burden's Quest as an example. One exotic gun requiring so many fixes just to make sure people could even get the gun again. Quote, "Seasons can do some of the heavy lifting here, in the sense of giving players a sense of shared purpose and understanding of what they're working for. But when we ready expansions, it's a chance to make some more fundamental changes to the game world and its systems. We've done significant systems changes to all Destiny games every time we've shipped an expansion, and now we're going to be making more changes to the game world as we go forward," end quote, emphasis mine. Finally, some quick notes on smaller topics. Number 1, faction rallies. They're not coming back. They did not drive a bunch of engagement with the game when they were here, the gear was not used much, and there's too many characters. But Faction Rally armor is being dropped into the Legendary Engram reward pools in Season 10 with some popular weapons as well. Number 2, Bright Engrams. You will not be able to buy them anymore. They are gone. You will still get them in the free track in the Season Rank Pass though. Number 3, New Light. It was not great at launch for brand new players. Bungie is going to make the New Light experience better for Fall 2020. And number 4, the Quest Log. Categorization is coming. Exotics get their own category, Seasonal gets their own, older quests get their own. Just some stuff to keep you organized. And that's his post. Again, I highly encourage you to read the post for yourself. I'm sure I lost some of the nuances here because I didn't just literally read the whole thing to you. So now, let's talk thoughts. How are we feeling about this? We'll start with seasonal content and aspiration. I've already made a video talking about lack of aspiration in Destiny content back in the beginning of the year that you should probably go check out, but we'll review. While I have literally said on my Twitter that, quote, there's so much to do and none of it matters, end quote, this is something that I've seen in plenty of places. Aspirational content for Season 9 simply did not exist outside of getting the title, which was pretty easy, maybe save for getting the ritual weapons. Season 8 as well, it was just sort of masked by Shadowkeep. And yes, I have every title, which to some people is aspirational content. For me, it's more of a checklist. I have run out of things to care about in the game, and the game has been getting reduced down to churning out another Menagerie spin-off that I'll get tired of in minutes, while simultaneously not caring about the rewards that they drop because I already have a million of them. And it seems like Bungie agrees on both fronts. After this season, I had basically zero confidence in the seasonal cadence of Menagerie spin-off plus gun rewards ever mattering again. It has gotten way too samey, too repetitive, too familiar, and now combine all of that with the weapons problem. It was very clear that something was going to have to change moving into future seasons. We cannot chase the success of the Menagerie any longer. I realized that the Sundial was probably in development before this feedback was received, but I'm glad Bungie has gotten the hint that it was not going to be sustainable. There has been a push for more focus on the core activities as well recently, because they have felt very neglected over the past, what year is it? They've been neglected for seasonal activities, and much like Luke said, the game is pulling you in multiple directions. Do I engage with the seasonal content or the core content? The season must become one with the core. They cannot be two isolated things. A lot of people have requested a season that bolsters the core activities to the game, and it sounds like Bungie wants to take things in that direction, combining seasonal cadences with the core experiences of the game. I think it would have been a tough sell for Bungie to come out with a paid seasonal update that only seeked to refine the core game without introducing anything else. I want those core activities to matter again. I want stuff to matter again. How about the evolving world? The FOMO issues. Let's talk about those. The world itself has not really been evolving. It's being added to and then taken away from. Granted, it's only been 2 content drops, I know. When I think evolution, I think of play spaces changing or new areas being added to current locations. I think of my World of Warcraft days where Deathwing cut the Barons in half and burned half the world, where Sargeras literally stabbed Azeroth, which is a planet, with a sword. Big changes in the world's geometry. Characters in the game actually, doing something. Bungie's done an okay job at pushing some form of a narrative forward over the past couple of seasons, but I think people have just been getting impatient over the past 5 years of waiting for some form of a storyline to get resolved and to figure out what all of these events mean for us. We don't really have an overarching villain in the game right now to really inspire anything. There is no front-facing enemy, just this ambiguous threat of something all the time. You can't really do much with that. And they don't feel that threatening when they don't do anything to change the places we interact with. That's why Taken King was neat. Orcs came in and was a much more front-facing threat. We had a focus on something. If Savathûn came in and corrupted a bunch of the EDZ and transformed it into a Taken hellscape, that gets me interested. Not pyramid ships sitting idle thousands of feet underground. Unfortunately, we just kind of need to keep playing the waiting game as Bungie develops that. The FOMO issue was another thing, although it directly clashes with Bungie's seemingly growing technical issues with the game. The FOMO that started with seasonal content was a result of the game getting too large to sustain on a technical level. So, instead of introducing activities that stayed around forever, Bungie opted to introduce them and then remove them, hopefully to not increase the growing file size of the game and introduce even more problems whenever they introduce new stuff. However, this creates a FOMO situation where people don't want to miss anything that happens to be dropping in a season, especially if they bought it. This probably spurred on the conversation of trying to mesh seasonal content or offerings with core game modes. Bungie perhaps would not need to add to the file size of the game as much with this fusion, although as we'll discuss in the Cosmic Gardeners section, maybe bigger things are coming. This is a tough one. I know I would much rather see certain activities stick around for the long haul, it's just more content after all, but if it's causing so many issues with the game, then something's gotta be done about it. I simply do not know enough about what takes up large amounts of space in the game, other than probably texture packs and audio, to really comment on this farther. That being said, reducing FOMO would go a long way for a lot of players, and I'm glad to see Bungie shift in this direction. Aspirational content also means loot. I've said it hundreds of times already. I don't care about loot in Destiny anymore. The only reason I care is to tick off checkboxes. That's it. I imagine most of the more engaged players are like this as well. I'm not saying that introducing new weaponry every season is bad. I'm just saying I don't care about it. I can only store so many god roll weapons. I can only farm for so many weapons before you lose me. Ritual and pinnacle weapons are better than the majority of anything Bungie will ever put out anyway. Power creep. How many times do I need to talk about power creep? It's one thing to build people up over the course of the year and then drop them back down. It's another thing to build people up over 3 years and then never come down. It is unsustainable. Luke likened it to Magic the Gathering or other card games. They have a standard format where only the recent stuff is relevant, and then more long-term formats where more things are relevant, and it looks like Destiny is trending in that direction. If it were up to me, I would blow up everything yearly. Yearly loot resets. Sorry, not blow up, but you know what I mean, retire. With these infusion changes seemingly directed towards aspirational or high level or light level mattering content, it looks like if you want to keep using the same guns, you'll be able to for longer than whatever timeline Bungie comes up with in stuff like heroic strikes, on top of the fact that you'll be able to continue to use whatever you want in the Crucible. But for the more hardcore, or perhaps engaged players taking on high-level content, you will need to adjust yearly, which I think is plenty of time. Plus, again, I imagine if you're engaged to that level, you probably don't mind grinding some new guns, or probably like the concept of weapon retirement to some degree. I do think some people exaggerate the whole, my stuff is going to be useless down the road, so why do I bother to get it now argument, though. It's a year. It's not a month. A year's a long time. This also helps recreate those days of old, those I can't believe you got Fatebringer days, where certain pieces of loot were held sacred. We technically still have those, 1,000 Voices, Anarchy, maybe not Taraba, but maybe Taraba someday for something other than collection purposes. But I'm a believer of the idea that loot for the hardest things in the game should be some of the better items in the game. I think it's admirable that you can get god roll weapons anywhere, even by just standing in the tower, pressing some buttons like a vending machine. But much like the next paragraph, it won't be something that we really see eye to eye on. If you raid, you want items from the raid to be more powerful than items from other lesser difficulty activities. If you don't raid, then you still want the chance to get raid quality items from other sources. Right now, I think we're too far skewed in favor of the second, at least with weapon rolls, although based on a couple of 51 stat roll items I just got out of the raid the other day, maybe armor as well. Community consensus seems to think that weapon retirement is either a good idea or the worst idea. I have made my arguments for why I think weapon retirement is a good idea plenty of times, and if I have not convinced you by now, I never will. We will just never see eye to eye on this. It'll just be agree to disagree, and that's as far as I'll be able to get. Some people just do not want to use literally anything else. Some people have 5 guns, they just want to use those forever. I wish Bungie could appease everyone on this, but they just can't, although I think they're getting close here in allowing for prolonged use of weapons in non-high-level content. I think weapon retirement keeps the game fresher. It gives people renewed interest in actually pursuing new items, and it allows Bungie to shake things up yearly without being tortured by certain guns or constantly having to worry about making something better than what we have right now. I will give you that most people will probably just end up regrinding for the same gun with a different name though. I feel you on that, but I would rather do that than just not care at all. I'll miss my crazy kill counts on some of my guns, sure. I have a couple of weapons with over 50,000 kills on them, but as someone who likes to play optimally, I feel like having 50,000 or more kills on a gun is the sign of a problem in the design space more than it is a pride point. Cosmic Gardeners. This section was a little ambiguous, but talks about a problem from last year, the ever-growing Destiny file size. In order to achieve an evolving narrative, a universe with permanent change and meaningful impact, changes need to happen. Destiny cannot keep growing indefinitely, and I will point to this sentence here. Quote, when we ready expansions, it's a chance to make some more fundamental changes to the game world and its systems. We've done significant systems changes to all Destiny games every time we've shipped an expansion, and now we're going to be making more changes to the game world as we go forward, end quote. For example, Forsaken had massive changes to the weapon system. Destiny 2 launch had huge changes everywhere. Didn't say they were good. Taken King introduced new subclasses and a much improved game experience. With these specific words, changes to the game world. This to me can mean some things I mentioned earlier about world building. Changes to the geometry of places we have now. Events happening that cause things to change, get added, be removed, whatever it might be. On the level of things like introducing infusion as a core game mechanic or Forsaken's weapon changes. Big, high-level changes in world building. This excites me, but without more information, we're just left wondering what will happen. If I were to guess, well, given Bungie's growing problem with the technical side of the game, removal of stuff, whatever stuff that might be on the list. Finally, let's get to some smaller stuff. Faction rallies. I think this is a decent trade with regards to factions. I don't know how much people really cared about faction rallies themselves, so much as they cared about factions being a part of the game again. Faction rallies themselves were not that interesting from a gameplay perspective, and I know I only did them to check boxes, save for 1 or 2 guns. I wouldn't mind factions becoming part of the Destiny experience again, but I'm also not really putting them at the top of my priority list. Bright engrams getting removed is likely more of a response to any future government regulations regarding loot boxes in gaming. Bungie said that they wanted to change to a know what you're buying system with regards to microtransactions, and they are doing just that. New Light getting buffed, so to speak, 0 complaints here. New Light seemed like it was designed for people who had friends who wanted their friends to play, and then they would show them the ropes. If you didn't have someone to guide you, it seemed like chaos to get into Destiny. The quest log, this is cool, no complaints here. More organizational tools are always welcome. That's all I got. Oh my god. We'll talk some trials later in the week after Bungie hopefully drops a little more info on it. And if you enjoyed this video, a positive rating is appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. It's a lot.